What's up, YouTube? It's Leader here, coach of the Montreal Canadiancies, back with my CPL Season 4 draft analysis. I could not be more hyped to start off the 4th season of the CPL. We've got a lot more coaches. You guys should have seen the trailer that I put up a little while back, but this is going to be the biggest draft league I have ever participated in, which is nice because I'm actually commissioning the whole thing. Before I get into the mons I picked, I want to give a really huge shout out to Chukast Hartu, who made these beautiful draft slides and this thumbnail that I and several other coaches will be using throughout the season. So, getting right into my first pick, we have Zygarde 50%. This is just a really nice comfort mon for me. It's my round 1 pick. Great breaker slash setup sweeper with 1,000 arrows being the most spammable move in the game. And because of its bulk, typing, and versatility, it's really easy to build cores around. So that's Zygarde. The nickname most of the time is going to be your Mungander, the Midgard Serpent. But you will see some of these nicknames will change up week to week if I want to have a specific reference for a specific opponent. My second round pick. Now, I wanted Mega Mawile, because that would have completed my Steel Dragon Fairy Core off the bat, and it would have given me a lot of interesting options, because I know that in OU you can see Mawile paired with Zygarde on some really nice Veil teams, and then Mawile gives me the option to run Trick Room as well if I wanted to build around that. So yeah, I wanted just various forms of offense. That was the plan with this draft. Unfortunately, Mega Mawile got sniped, so I decided to pick up Mega Pincer next. Mega Pincer pairs really nicely with Zygarde. It defeats any bulky grass type, and it's a deadly setup sweeper and breaker. The only issue, in my opinion, with Mega Pincer is that it really forces you to grab a lot of reliable hazard removal for it to do its job effectively. So that's actually going to limit my draft, I think, but Mega Pincer is another comfort mon for me if I haven't said that already, and I'm really excited to finally use it. I've wanted to use it for a long time. Pincer's nickname, especially when it's shiny, is going to be Soily. Alright, next up we've got my tier 3 pick. Actually, I wanted to grab Torrent Greninja. I think it's super undervalued at tier 3. It pressures bulky grass types because it's an offensive water, so that helps out Zygarde, and it can lure them in for Pincer just like Zygarde can. Greninja is super versatile. It can run offensive sets on both the special and physical side. It's got a lot of support options, mainly hazards and momentum, which my team really likes. And it's got an excellent speed tier. Spoilers, Greninja's going to end up being the fastest mon on my team, which I don't mind at all. Base 122 is really nice. The Greninja nickname this season is going to be Blackout, because I had Monster Cat song themed nicknames in WCBL Season 4, and I think Greninja put in a ton of work, which warranted it the spot for the nickname to come back at least. But yeah, we'll see if I end up changing that up during the season. Before I grabbed Greninja, if Mew lasted, I would have grabbed that because it would have given me a really nice Defogger and Stealth Rocker right off the bat. But unfortunately, Mew was sniped, so I ended up taking Ryu Niquist, which is another bulky Psychic type. That's the primary role I wanted. A bulky Psychic type that could just set up Calm Minds and sit in front of things and not die. Bulky Psychics pair really well with Greninja, working on that whole Psychic Dark fighting core there, because Greninja resists Dark and Ghosts, can come in on most Dark and Ghost types and force them out, well, Ghosts at least. Yeah, as I said, Ryu Niquist is a really nice Calm Mind sweeper that really appreciates Greninja's hazards, as my first two mons do as well. And my first three picks, Greninja, Pincer, and Zygarde, can all be anti-offense mons with their speed/priority, which really helps out Ryu Niquist's late-game sweep if I choose to go that route. Ryu Niquist's name will be Fudoshin, which literally translates from Japanese to English to immovable mind, it's a martial arts philosophy, and I thought it was pretty appropriate since Ryu Niquist is a psychic type and it's very hard to kill. The next mon I grabbed was Tangra. Usually this thing would go earlier, I think, in most drafts, but what I decided to do is that I wanted a Regenerator grass type, so either Amoonguss or Tangra, and as soon as Amoonguss went, I decided to grab Tangra. I could have gone with either, and whichever one went first, I would just grab the other one. That was my plan. Regenerator is a good way to preserve momentum on a team. I really like Regenerator defensive Pokemon because you can bring them as bulky pivots on like Volt Turn type teams and not lose your momentum, because a lot of defensive Pokemon tend to do that. Drafting Tangrowth also removes arguably the best Zygarde check from my pool. The way we're doing this is that there are two draft pools of 12 people each. Tangrowth, having the Regenerator ability, pairs well with Ryu Niquist. It's not like they have the greatest of type synergy, but having two Regenerator mons on a team is really nice. Next up, because I didn't get Mawile, I needed to fill out my Steel Dragon Fairy core somehow, and so I picked up Klefki. Klefki offers a lot for my team. It gets Prankster, dual screens, which really helps out Pincer and Zygarde, maybe even Ryu Niquist, any of my sweepers. It's a second spiker, so that Greninja doesn't have to run spikes every time it comes. If I want to bring spikes, it's another Trick Room setter alongside Ryu Niquist in case I want to use that option later on, which you'll see that I do actually. And it does get Defog. Although it's not the best Defog user, it gets it, right? And it resists Stealth Rock, so it can do that job. Prankster T-Wave is also nice for speed control, which really helps out my Zygarde and Pincer. My next pick was another free pick from Tier 3, being Alolan Marowak, completing my Fire Water Grass core alongside Tangrowth and Greninja. I picked up Alolan Marowak mostly because it was one of the best Bolt Beam checks available. Alolan Marowak naturally resists Ice typing because it's a Fire type, and with the Lightning Rod ability, it's immune to Electric, so I think a Bolt Beam resist is a really nice thing to have on a draft, and they're not common. It's not like every draft can have one, so I'm really glad I picked this up, especially with Zygarde and with my draft so far looking at kinda Ice Weak. Alolan Marowak is also a spin blocker, which helps out my hazard stacking options here. And it's an offensive ghost type, which is nice because I find a lot of drafts are Ghost Weak these days. They tend to only draft one Dark type or no normal type at all, and like the Dark type they do draft isn't always a bulky one, so it's really hard for opponents to find a Ghost Resist, I find these days. Marowak abuses Trick Room should I set that up for it, and it's a Stealth Rocker, right? My current Stealth Rockers are Marowak and Pincer, which are not the greatest options, but I needed to get more Stealth Rockers than just Pincer. So yeah, Marowak does fill that role for me. At this point, I've filled most of the roles I wanted to on my team. Now I just wanted to pick up some of my mandatory picks before moving on to my other free picks. And then, like, I had a lot of options in terms of free picks, so picking my mandatory tier 1s, my mandatory tier 4 and 5s, there weren't a ton of options left at this point, so I figured I'd just grab what I like and then figure out my free picks afterwards. That said, my next pick here is going to be Latias. Mei returns to the squad after an excellent performance in CPL Season 2. So good, in fact, that she got banned. I've used Mega Latias in CPL Season 2, but now regular Latias returns to the Montreal Canadiancies, fulfilling most of the same roles. A nice bulky defogger, healing wish support. It's a nice support mon, and it's a better offensive dragon type than Zygarde is, in my opinion, because Zygarde's only reliable dragon move is Outrage, and Latias can actually throw off stuff like Dragon Pulses, like Draco Meteors, to pressure steel types for my Pincer, for example, for Ryu Niquist, stuff like that. It's just nice to have a more reliable offensive dragon, in my opinion, when you're pairing it with Zygarde. It's also a nice ground immunity, which I only had in Pincer before, and I had to wait until I Mega Evolved to use that, so that's what Latias does. It also fills a really nice speed tier in base 110. Closes the gap between Greninja and Pincer a little bit, but I would like one more mon slightly faster than Latias, slightly slower than Greninja, and you'll see I will end up picking that up soon. But before I do that, I grabbed Golbat out of tier 4. It's the only tier 4 I really liked. It's got a nice speed tier at 90, being slightly slower than Zygarde and 15 points faster than Klefki. It also has momentum in U-turn, and it's a really nice bulky pivot. So, like I said, I wanted defensive mons that don't lose me momentum, and Golbat, I think, does a very good job. And it does have defog as well, so I'm stacking up these defoggers right now. I already have 3, which is pretty nice. Next, out of tier 5, I took Zed Strike. Zed Strike is the mon I mentioned earlier that fills that speed gap between Latias and Greninja at base 116. Zed Strike is a really nice Volt Switch user, which I didn't have before. It pressures grass types because it's a special attacking electric type. And to boot, what Zed Strike has over other electric types that are in this tier is access to Overheat, which does massive damage to grass types. So I can lure those to support Zygarde and support my water types. And it also has 2 nice abilities that make it immune to electric type attacks, so it grants me another electric immunity. Zed Strike also fills the role of being a flying check on my team. The only flying resist I had prior was Klefki, which doesn't hit that hard and can't really damage flying types in return, but Zed Strike can, so that's really nice. I think that's important. Now we're moving on into my free picks, and a really important role on most draft teams that I hadn't picked up yet is that of a bulky water type. And so to fill this role, I decided to pick up Empoleon. This also gives me another defogger and another stealth rocker, which I thought was really important. Mostly the stealth rocker. This is probably the most reliable stealth rocker on my team. And like I said, bulky water type is really nice. Pairing well with Greninja, actually. I like pairing bulky water types with offensive water types because I find that any mon that has to try to switch into Scald has the chance of getting crippled by a burn, making it easier for Greninja to deal with it later on. And if Greninja does a lot of damage with its powerful water type attacks like Hydro Pump, then my opponent will have a much harder time switching into Scald as well. So I like having 2 water types, 1 offensive, 1 bulky, and Empoleon fills that role for me. Empoleon's nickname this season, for the most part, will be Jinketsu from Kill la Kill. And finally, my last free pick is Cameron. I decided to pick up Cameron because he completes my Psychic Dark Fighting core and is a good abuser of Trick Room. Cameron serves as a ghost immunity, so if I decide to bring Trick Room and pair it with Alolan Marowak and Ryu Niquist, it's really nice to have a normal type that can take no damage from those ghost type hits. And finally, Cameron fills an important role on my team of looking like Joe from Blue's Clues, which no other Mon on my team does, and I think that's really important. So that is my draft for the 4th season of the CPL. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like I said, I'm really excited. I think we're gonna have a really great season because I'm going to be putting effort into this league. I can guarantee you that. So, thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to leave a like, a retweet, and maybe even subscribe. But until next time, later, guys.